Okay, so this, we'll do the K-1 class first. It's gonna be, I called it Helping Hands, and it's watercolor Crayon Resist. So this is basically what they're gonna do. They can pair up, they can partner up, or they can trace their own hands. So they will get a black crayon. And if they choose to trace their friend's hands, that's fine. And they can trace more than one handprint. So I'll just do a couple to give you an idea. And they're going to be incorporating the same thing that they did last week with the lines, learning all the different types of lines. And they can do their hand or different hands, but they should kind of do them facing different directions. Kind of be creative with it. And they definitely need to, here, let's see. They will definitely need to use crayon to do the tracing, because that's the whole idea with the watercolor resist. Okay, so let's just say that's what they've got. Okay, now I'm using wax. They'll use white crayon for this part, and they're going to do different lines all throughout their hands. Zigzag lines, they can do shapes, they can do like curved lines, diagonal lines, and they can decorate them. They can even write their friends' names. If they traced a friend's name, they can write their friend's name inside one of the hands. And then the idea is for them to just kind of be super creative. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to, after they're done, and they shouldn't really show up. If they use white crayon, it shouldn't show up. But then they're going to use a medium-sized brush. Remember, talk to them about watercolor. And the reason this is resist is because you're taking two mediums that are not compatible. So we'll be able to see all of the different designs that are created when we go over it with our watercolors. And the more water they use, the more blending can happen. Really work with them this week on blending colors, because I've noticed that they like to kind of keep all colors separate. But the idea of this is that you can actually blend different sections together. And that is achieved also with a little more water. Okay, let's see. And of course, I'm just rushing through this to give you an idea. And then the other thing they're going to want to do after this, when all of the hands are kind of painted and blended in together, then we're going to want them to paint the background. And they can use a bigger brush for that, a thicker brush for that. I don't have one here, but so what they'll do, it would be good if they could kind of highlight each hand that they've done, like accent it. And the way they'll do that is to just kind of go around each hand in a different color. The crayon is going to prevent the colors from blending and smearing. So in this part of the activity, we definitely don't want the colors blending. Not right here. So they're going to kind of go around the outside of each hand like so with one color, because it's going to make that particular hand stand out. Of course, my paintbrush sucks, so this, you know, they actually have legitimate paintbrushes. That's pretty cool. So here's my accented hand, and I can even kind of make it more, like I can even do this really. Kind of rounds it off a little bit more. Like this. And then when I've kind of done each hand like that, then I can blend other colors into that. Then I can kind of, because the idea is to get the whole background painted also. And then I can do more with blending. And if they wait too long to blend, then the colors look more separated. The more water they have on their brush, the easier it is to blend them together. And of course, this part of the activity really shouldn't take long. They'll be using a thicker brush, so honestly, it's more like coloring with a paintbrush. Of course, my paintbrush is not giving me those options. So at any rate, each hand will kind of be a different accented color so that the hand itself stands out. The designs in the middle of the hand will stand out. And then of course they'll wait for it to dry. And then the other idea I had was, if there's time, you could frame them also on a larger piece of paper, or taping two pieces of construction paper together. The art can be framed. If there isn't time for that, then we can always do that as something special for them on the side, and then give it back to them next week. We can kind of frame the art. But that's basically the idea. And just explain that it's resist, because the resist technique is two mediums that are not compatible, like wax and watercolor, or crayon wax and watercolor, and that's why it shows through. And it's like the spiderweb activity they did, but we want to focus more on color blending. So that's the K-1 activity.